The wedding idyll turned into a shocking betrayal. My husband secretly registered the house in his mother's name so that if we divorced, I'd be left with nothing. From beautiful plans for a shared life to pain and legal battles. Find out if it's worth fighting for the dream or if it's all already lost. Lucy had always dreamed of a marvelous life filled with light, laughter, and of course love, just like in the best novels, where every page bursts with vivid emotions and unexpected twists of fate. Even before her wedding, she owned a cozy apartment where every window welcomed her with the joyful gleam of the morning sun, and the walls were imbued with the scent of her dreams. Her life seemed like a perfect kaleidoscope, where every little detail had its place, and the future would unfold like a fairy tale. One day, fate brought her together with Alexander, a man who knew how to envelop her in attention and care, as if the light in his eyes could melt even the coldest ice. He was charming, kind, and as it turned out, remarkably determined when it came to building their shared dream. It was Alexander who, assuring Lucy of his sincere intention to create a family nest, took on all the hassles associated with paperwork and planning their future home. His words were as encouraging as the first rays of the morning sun, promising a new, bright day. Together, they envisioned building a house where every detail, from the choice of tiles to the arrangement of furniture, would be filled with love and a special meaning. Lucy imagined how they would wake up to the sound of morning birds, how they would prepare breakfast together and, laughing, discuss plans for the future. Everything seemed so natural and right that her soul filled with the joy of anticipating a new, happy life. But, as is often the case in the most naive dreams, behind the sparkling facade of idyll lay delicate threads capable of overturning the entire world in an instant. No one could have imagined that behind Alexander's sincere promises, there would be a complex plan that one day would destroy everything Lucy had so tenderly cherished. At the very beginning of their shared journey, when the world was still full of hope, a secret was born that would eventually turn into the bitterest truth. Thus began a story filled with golden dreams, bright expectations, and the finest threads of impending pain. Lucy, like the heroine of a romantic novel, had no inkling that fate was preparing a trial for her, one capable of turning the happiest days into a tragic odyssey. But for now, under the bright sun and in anticipation of the future, she savored every moment, unaware of the shadow already creeping around the corner, ready to change her life forever. Lucy's bright dreams began to fade on that fateful day when an unexpected storm shattered their nearly perfect idyll. Alexander's house, the embodiment of their shared dream, was slowly taking shape when a guest arrived at the door, one who would forever alter the course of her destiny. It was Elizabeth, Alexander's mother, a woman with a cold gleam in her eyes and an enigmatic smile that might have melted ice, had it not been for her frosty detachment. Lucy recalls how it all happened. They were sitting in the bright foyer, where every corner still spoke of the forthcoming warmth of a family hearth, when Elizabeth, like a wind from distant shores, disrupted the usual flow of conversation. Her voice, initially soft and somewhat mocking, soon transformed into a cold confession that pierced Lucy's soul like a knife. "What a wonderful house you have," Elizabeth said, not taking her eyes off Lucy. "But tell me, when do you plan to move? After all, the house is in my name. Yes, it's under my name, which means I have full rights to it. Moreover, if I so desire, I can kick you out of here." These words seemed to echo through the hall, causing every corner to freeze in a dreadful silence. Lucy felt the world around her begin to spin at a terrifying speed, and for the first time in her life, it seemed as if her own heart could betray her, just like the person closest to her. Vague images filled her mind. The house where she had dreamed of greeting sunrises in love suddenly turned into an arena for others' ambitions and cunning intrigues. In that moment, all the plans and hopes that had been so carefully built over long months of happiness shattered into tiny fragments. Lucy could not believe her ears. Had the one who once promised to protect their love really put his mother's name on the house contract? Every word from Elizabeth, spoken with indifferent cruelty, struck like a bolt of lightning, shaking the very foundations of the trust upon which their family was built. In panic and horror, Lucy stepped back, trying to find the strength to ask Alexander the question that had tormented her from the first seconds. Why? But the words got stuck in her throat, and her heart pounded so loudly it seemed as if it would break from the pain. Each second dragged on infinitely, leaving behind only the cold realization of betrayal. This chapter in her life, filled with deceit and treachery, marked the beginning of the end of her innocence. As it turned out, behind the gentle promises and bright plans lay a cruel game in which she was deprived of a voice. Lucy felt that the house where she had dreamed of building a future had now become a symbol of a cynical deal made without her knowledge, and everything that once seemed so important and sacred suddenly lost its meaning. At this fateful crossroads, Lucy realized that her life would never be the same again, for betrayal, like a dark shadow, had stretched over her entire being, causing her to doubt the sincerity of love, trust, and truth. And though tears streamed down her cheeks, a quiet determination was born within her to understand how this had happened and to reclaim everything that had been taken from her by deceit. Thus began a journey filled with bitterness, pain, and despair, a journey where every step was accompanied by memories of happiness that turned out to be nothing more than an illusion. Lucy stood on the threshold of a new, even more complex life, where betrayal had revealed itself as a harsh truth, and the house that once warmed her heart with dreams had become a symbol of hopelessness and loss. Amid the turmoil following that fateful visit, the moment arrived when words had to be spoken aloud. Lucy, as if lost in the labyrinth of her own thoughts, resolved to ask the question that had tormented her soul from the very first seconds. Her heart pounded so loudly it seemed about to burst under the onslaught of pain, and her eyes, brimming with tears and inexpressible sorrow, searched for solace in Alexander's face. They met in a small living room, where a heavy silence hung in the air as if the room itself knew that the moment of truth had arrived. Alexander, with his gaze lowered, appeared as a man caught between two irreconcilable worlds, one of deceitful promises and the other of brutal reality. Gathering her last reserves of strength, Lucy began the conversation, a dialogue mixed with the bitterness of betrayal and the despair of disappointment. "Alexander," she said quietly but firmly, "how could this happen? We were building a dream home, planning a future, and you put everything in your mother's name. Explain to me. Why?" Her words seemed to hang in the air like heavy chains, stifling the very breath around them. Alexander remained silent for a long moment, as if trying to piece together scattered fragments of memories to justify his actions. His face reflected a deep internal struggle, and his eyes, clouded with regret, revealed not only the fear of loss but also the unresolved pain of his own soul. "Lucy, I wanted to protect us," he murmured, as if trying to hide behind words imbued with a cold, calculating logic. "After all, you have your own apartment, and if things went wrong, I wouldn't want to be left without any means. It was just a precaution." These words, spoken so casually, shattered the last remnants of the illusions she had so cherished. Every word from Alexander echoed with cold calculation rather than a promise of mutual love. Lucy felt her heart constrict with the realization that all those warm dreams of the future had been nothing more than a facade for a cruel plan, one in which her fate had been sealed long before she had dared to believe in love. Tears streamed down her cheeks, leaving traces of pain and betrayal, and her voice trembled like the wind that chills to the bone. But why? Why didn't you trust me? We promised each other honesty, support, understanding. Isn't that enough to build a future together?" Alexander seemed to search for salvation in the silence, unable to find words that could drown out the cries of her disappointment. His face was like a mask reflecting both guilt and confusion. He tried to justify his decision, but every word only deepened Lucy's inner agony, as if delivering another blow to her fragile heart. He finally managed with difficulty. "I thought that this way we could avoid even bigger problems in the future. What if something unforeseen happened, if we were separated? I didn't want us to have to start over from scratch, losing everything we had built together." These words, spoken so detachedly, were the final drop for Lucy. Inside her, confusion reigned, a mingling of betrayal and loss, compounded by the pain of realizing that the man she had entrusted her life to had betrayed her in the most profound way. She understood that the very words Alexander used to explain his decision were devoid of sincerity and warmth, concealing cold calculations and a fear of an unknown future. In this conversation between two people, once bound by invisible threads of love and hope, a fateful schism resounded, leaving an irreversible mark on both their destinies. Lucy felt every justificatory syllable from him penetrate the depths of her soul, dismantling everything that had once seemed unbreakable. In that moment, she realized that trust, so fragile and invaluable, had been treacherously shattered into 1,000 pieces, irreparable by any means. The ensuing silence, a continuation of their conversation, was filled with the bitterness of unmet hopes and the realization that the relationship she had once believed to be eternal had lost its sincerity. Lucy sat, exhausted and crushed, sinking deeper with each passing moment into an abyss of disappointment. Her eyes sparkled with tears that reflected the pain and an indescribable sorrow, while her heart nurtured an unyielding resolve to find a way to reclaim her lost dignity and justice. The conversation ended, leaving behind nothing but the cold whisper of unfulfilled hopes and the faint echo of a lost belief in love. Alexander sat there, seemingly emptied, realizing that his action had proven fateful, and that Lucy, in that moment, had become not only his beloved, but also a symbol of the pain he had inflicted. Thus ended that painful dialogue in which every word resonated like a crack in a breaking heart, leaving behind a deep wound that time might never heal. Stunned by betrayal, Lucy stood on the threshold of a new reality, a reality where trust had been treacherously shattered and hope was barely a flickering flame in a dark realm of pain. After that fateful conversation between Lucy and Alexander, the world around her turned into a chaotic whirlwind of emotions. Every minute felt like endless torment. Inside, she was shattered by the pain of betrayal, while outside, life continued with a quiet ordinariness that could not conceal her immense loss. Yet, in that very moment, when Lucy's soul was torn to pieces, a determination to fight for her truth was born. From the very first days after the conversation, a spark ignited in her heart, promising not to fade despite Alexander's icy betrayal. Lucy understood that she would not only have to let go of the illusions of a happy future, but also embark on a legal and emotional battle where every detail would matter. Her resolve was as untamable as a raging sea during a storm. She was ready to defy fate itself. Deciding that she could no longer live in the prison of betrayal, Lucy made the agonizing decision to file for divorce. This step was not merely a formality, but a symbol of her rejection of old deceptions and painful memories, of a home once filled with bright hopes that had become hostage to someone else's intrigues. Every document, every detail related to the property became proof of how thin the line was between love and cold calculation. A burning desire to reclaim her lost dignity took hold deep within Lucy's heart. Her thoughts repeatedly returned to the image of Alexander, whose words, so detached and ruthless, had left wounds that seemed unhealable. She remembered how tenderly and warmly he once spoke of the future, and now those dreams had turned into bitter irony. Lucy knew that the fight for justice would be long and arduous, especially since all the building materials, receipts, and documents were neatly registered under his mother, Elizabeth's name. Despite the legal intricacies, Lucy remained resolute. She gathered all her documents, spent sleepless nights poring over papers, and sought support from friends who refused to leave her side in this difficult hour. Every detail seemed important, every little piece a fragment of her shattered heart that she was determined to reclaim, even if it meant enduring the hardships of court proceedings and endless consultations with lawyers. In those moments when silence reigned and it felt as if the entire world had paused in anticipation of a miracle, Lucy found the strength for a new beginning. Memories of the happy days with Alexander mixed with the bitterness of loss, yet this inner conflict became the impetus for her struggle. She understood that even if the house remained out of her reach, her dignity and honor could not be defiled by deceit. Preparing for the court process became a new trial for her, where every page of documents and every remark in the courtroom held meaning. Lucy sincerely believed that justice would prevail, that the truth, like a quiet stream, would find its way through the stone walls of bureaucracy. This belief, though fragile, served as her guiding star in the darkness. Deep within, on the ruins of her broken dreams, a new strength was born, a strength that promised not to be broken by the harsh realities of life. Lucy decided that she would not allow anyone, even those who once promised her love and protection, to deprive her of her right to happiness and justice. Her soul cried out, "I deserve more," and that cry grew louder with every passing day. Thus, in the silence of the night under the stars, Lucy made her final decision. She would fight despite all obstacles and find the strength to rebuild her life, even if it meant bidding farewell to the past. Her struggle became not just a legal battle, but an inner journey to rediscover herself, where every obstacle turned into a lesson and every wound served as a reminder that true strength is born from pain. In this way, Lucy's shattered dreams transformed into an unquenchable spark of hope, ready to light the path toward a new, honest, and free future. This moment marked a turning point in her life, when she ceased to be a victim of circumstances and became the heroine of her own destiny. The courtroom session became for Lucy a trial comparable not to a battle for life, but for life itself, where every word and every piece of evidence could turn her fate upside down. In the court, filled with a stifling silence and the held breaths of those present, time seemed to slow down, allowing every observer to feel the weight of the moment. Lucy, seated among the plaintiffs, no longer appeared as the gentle woman she once was. Now her eyes burned with determination, and traces of unspoken pain glistened on her cheeks. The legal battle before her was not merely a clash of interests, but a confrontation between two worlds, one of genuine emotions and the other of cold calculation. Every page of documents, neatly stacked, served as a weapon aimed against her dream of justice. The judge, serious and demanding, scrutinized every detail, while the attorneys for both sides fought not only for the right to the property, but also for the chance to reclaim lost dignity. The courtroom exuded an atmosphere of inevitability and tension, where every participant understood that more than just a property dispute was at stake. Lucy listened as experts cited receipts and bank statements, confirming that all the materials for construction were purchased with Elizabeth's card, the mother of Alexander. These pieces of evidence seemed to lack any warmth or humanity, turning into cold numbers that confirmed calculation rather than love. Meanwhile, brief remarks filled the courtroom, their voices trembling with emotion, as if time itself began to waver under the force of truth. Lucy tried to hold back tears, each one reflecting the pain she had endured. Memories of happier days, when the house was a symbol of their shared dream, flashed through her mind, now turned into an instrument of betrayal. Alexander, sitting on the defense side, seemed lost in a maze of his own justifications. His voice, when he spoke, was cold and detached. Every word appeared to be drawn from a calculated script where emotion yielded to logic. He maintained that every measure had been taken to protect their shared future, and that in the event of a divorce, his own interests would be at risk. But to Lucy, those words were merely an echo of a love that had long been lost. For several hours, the trial transformed into an arena of relentless struggle for truth. Every new testimony, every document, like a fresh blow to Lucy's fragile heart, forced her to confront the injustice of it all. Yet even amidst this whirlwind of legal arguments and cold facts, a flame of determination continued to burn within her. She knew that if she did not fight for her truth, she would never regain her lost dignity. The nervous rustles, the accidental glances, the fleeting emotions, all created a sense as if fate itself was delivering a verdict that would change the course of her life. Lucy felt her soul, ravaged by pain and betrayal, growing stronger with every new argument, transforming from the shards of broken dreams into a solid stone ready to withstand life's storms. In the courtroom, where every word mattered and every detail could be decisive, Lucy understood that even if the decision were harsh, her fight was not merely a legal battle, it was the final cry of a soul yearning for justice. The trial became a mirror of her inner strength, reflecting not only her pain but also the possibility of a new beginning. Thus, against the backdrop of cold numbers and legal jargon, a drama unfolded that could forever change Lucy's life. In that moment, she could no longer look back. New trials awaited her, and only true faith in justice could help her navigate the labyrinth of legal intrigues, so that, perhaps, one day she might find peace and reclaim her lost dignity. After the exhausting court proceedings, where cold figures and facts clashed with the pain of the soul, Lucy found refuge in her memories. In the silence of solitude, as the noise of the courtroom faded away, that world reopened before her, the world where the dream house was filled with warmth and light. In every corner of her memory, moments of tenderness flashed by, when Alexander, with a smile, spoke of the future, and her heart beat in unison with his dreams. Sitting on an old wooden bench in the garden, where their joyful voices once rang out, Lucy recalled how they had chosen each brick and every detail of their future home together. These moments seemed so distant, like pages of a long-forgotten book, where every line was filled with bright feelings and promises of eternal happiness. Yet it was these memories that gave her strength, like a quiet whisper from the past, reminding her of who she was before the world changed and deceit shattered her dreams. In those hours when her heart was torn apart by the pain of loss, Lucy began to see a new perspective emerging before her. She realized that even if injustice had inflicted a terrible wound upon her, it was through that pain that one could gain a true understanding of oneself. Every minute lived, every tear shed, became fragments of a mosaic that formed the picture of a new life, full of hope and determination. The memories of happy days no longer served as a source of pain, but rather as a lesson that taught her to cherish every moment, every spark of light in the dark realm of life. Meetings with close friends, quiet conversations over a cup of fragrant tea, and the gentle touch of time helped Lucy realize that the past, no matter how scorching it might have been, should not rob her of faith in the future. She began to face new possibilities, quietly dreaming of the day when justice would prevail and her heart would be filled with joy once again. Every new dawn became a symbol of rebirth for her, a chance to start anew, leaving behind cold documents and soulless judicial decisions. Thus, amid warm memories and quiet hopes, Lucy found the strength for a new life. A realization grew within her that true value is not measured by papers and numbers, but in human relationships, genuine emotions, and the capacity to forgive. Even if the house, once a symbol of deceit, remained out of her reach, true love, given to her once by fate, and new encounters could still bring her the light she so longed for. In that inner world where pain and joy intertwined, Lucy slowly but inexorably began to learn to forgive not only others but fate itself. The memories of the past ceased to be a heavy burden. They became a guiding star, pointing her towards freedom and personal rebirth. Lucy understood that it was through forgiveness that one could open a new chapter in life, where every morning was greeted with hope, and the evening gave way to dreams of a bright future. With this newfound faith in herself and her quiet yet determined steps toward freedom, Lucy decided that it was time to let go of old wounds. She knew that a long path filled with trials and surprises lay ahead, but her heart was no longer afraid. Even if the past had left traces of pain, those scars served as a reminder of the importance of cherishing true love and striving for justice. And even if fate had once dealt her bitter lessons, she was now ready to look forward to a new day, where the light of hope began to break through the thick clouds. Thus, with quiet determination and bright memories, Lucy began to rebuild her life, a life where pain gave way to understanding, and hope ignited in her heart like a small yet unquenchable spark, capable of lighting even the darkest path. Time passed, and gradually the wounds inflicted by cruel betrayal and the long struggle began to heal. Lucy, having endured all the bitter trials, finally felt the light of hope rekindling in her soul. Fate, which had once been so ruthless, now, like a gentle rain, washed away the remnants of pain, giving way to a new life where forgiveness and inner balance became the guiding stars. Leaving behind the gloomy courtrooms and the burden of endless documents, Lucy began to greet each morning with a smile, as if the new dawn promised her limitless possibilities. Every day she woke with the feeling that the past was merely a lesson that had taught her the true value of love, trust, and self-respect. Now she knew that real wealth was not measured by property or the numbers in documents, but by how the light of her soul could warm others. Meetings with friends, long walks along autumnal alleys, and quiet evenings over a cup of fragrant tea became symbols of renewal for her. Every minute spent among people who genuinely cared for her helped Lucy forget the past and believe that joy and harmony awaited her. She began to create, writing down her thoughts, emotions, and dreams, as if transforming pain into lines that could heal and inspire. These words, like a soft whisper of the heart, told her, "Goodbye, resentment, and hello, new beginnings." Alexander and his mother, Elizabeth, remained forever in her past, a reminder of how easily one can lose faith in love if it is not cherished. But Lucy was no longer seeking revenge or bitterness. She had accepted her fate with the dignity and wisdom earned after years of struggle. By forgiving not only them but also fate itself, she opened her heart to new feelings, to a love that knew no tricks or hidden agendas, but valued sincerity and openness. Over time, Lucy found her support in creativity and in the company of people who admired her strength, born of hardship. She began to share her story to inspire others to fight for their truth and to seek happiness even in the most challenging circumstances. Her voice became a quiet hymn of belief in a better future, and every new encounter reminded her that life, like an artist's canvas, was always ready to offer new colors and shades of joy, if only we dare to embrace them. On one clear spring evening, as the sun caressed the earth with its last rays, Lucy sat on the veranda of a small cafe, watching as the world around her filled with life and light. She smiled softly, realizing that every loss and every trial had made her stronger and wiser. Now she no longer burned the bridges of the past, but transformed pain into memories, and memories into lessons that propelled her forward. In that moment, Lucy understood that forgiveness was not a sign of weakness, but the greatest strength, a power capable of freeing the soul and giving it wings to soar. By forgiving Alexander, Elizabeth, and even her own fate, she rediscovered her capacity to love again, first herself, and then those around her. This act of forgiveness became the cornerstone of her new dawn, when a heart cleansed of grudges and fears could open to true, sincere love. Lucy's story, a tale full of bitterness and pain, transformed into one of strength and rebirth. Her winding and difficult path became an example for those searching for light in the darkest corners of life. She learned that even when all plans crumble and trust is shattered, an inexhaustible source of strength lives within each person, capable of reviving even the dimmest dreams. Thus ended this chapter of her life, where pain gave way to forgiveness and resentments dissolved in the gentle glow of a new dawn. Lucy walked through life with ease, as if singing a quiet song that every new day is a chance to begin anew. That happiness is not dependent on material wealth, but is born in a heart filled with love and faith in a better future. This heart-wrenching story, imbued with the complexity of human relationships, became a reminder to all who have faced betrayal and injustice. Do not give up, for after every dark night comes a dawn, and every pain can transform into a source of strength if we allow ourselves to forgive and move on. And so, under the starry sky, Lucy looked toward the future with quiet determination and a gentle smile on her lips, knowing that her path was one of true freedom, a journey where every loss was a step toward a new, bright, and love-filled life.